So would you do what you're doing for a broke dude?
But then, like she said that it shouldn't be conditional, but then she's saying, what are the requirements for this kind of love from you? So there's obviously some kind of condition there to begin with, even to get that kind of love from you. So it's not truly unconditional if there's requirements to even access it. But anyway, really boil down submission to just the acts of a woman and what she can do for a man, whether that's his washing, his dishes, his clothes, his meals, and then we reduce the man's dominance and his assertiveness and his ability to lead to his money. It's not really the biblical definition and framework for submission. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and also welcome if you are new. I'm so grateful to have you all here. So my name is AkuaB, and here on this channel I cover all things faith, culture and encouragement, and as you can tell from the title of today's video, I'm going to be reacting to a video from Shan Body, who is talking about submission with a guest as well. But before we get straight into that, I just want to encourage you to leave a like down below on today's video and also comment something that you're enjoying from today's video, any deductions that you have from my reaction, or just your opinions of your own. And if you haven't already, then please make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and also turn on that notification bell so you never miss another upload. Also, a quick shout out to the members of this channel. Thank you so much for supporting me financially on this platform, and also a quick shout out to a silver Bible buddy called Tawana Thornton. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. If you would also like a shout out here on this channel or like to become a Bible buddy, then please make sure to click the link in the description bar down below. And without further ado, let's get into today's reaction. Okay, so my laptop is on my knee down here, and that is what I'll be looking at. So if you see me looking down, I'm just reacting down here, but my gaze is right here to react as well.
I know.
I don't know why you're feeling away.
Why? What do you mean? Look at you.
I should be nervous.
No, why?
Because if I ask stupid questions, if I step on your toes.
Never. I'm so nervous because I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna unravel today? Even though I know that everything we talk about is gonna be needed for people to hear, especially from me, because you said I would never think you would be like that.
I would not.
And that's interesting to me.
So, you know why? Because what I know of you is you've always been a hustler. You've always been a boss. You constantly reinvent yourself. So that's what I said. My first and foremost comment to you was I've known about you for over a decade now.
Oh, thank you.
That to be said, my perception of you has been like career oriented, me first, not in a negative way, but like kind of like the person who's like, I'm no good to you if I'm not good to me.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that, me first. I'm not even like that. I think that it seems like that because of how I hustle, but even when I hustle, it's not even for me.
All right, so let's bring it back to the basics. What is the art of being submissive?
First step is get with somebody who wants what you have to offer.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I can respect that. I can see where she's coming from. This video is trending like a lot recently, so it's going to be interesting to see what she says or what the conversation sparks that is triggering this viral kind of response from it. But I think from the start what she's saying kind of makes sense. You need someone that is willing to take what you're willing to give, and that is actually supported biblically, where it says that you should be equally yoked, that you should, how can two walk together if they're not in agreement, those kind of things. So that makes sense. That looks logical so far.
I think love and submission is a tailored fit. It's not a one size fits all. So I can only tell you what it means to me. Now for me, it's complete selflessness. I am satisfied in serving. I'm a servant. And I watched my mother serve all my life. You know, and it was rain, sleet, or snow. I think we talked about this on the phone. My mother's love for my father wasn't conditional. It's not my responsibility, but
it's your joy.
It is my joy. You know, I love to see him eating the meal that I cooked. I love seeing him sleep easy. Like every night, like clockwork, I scratch this man's back to sleep. And I know when he's asleep because I can tell when his breathing changes. And some people might think that's psychotic, but that's like, I just know that's when I'm like, oh, I can stop now. But I find joy in being your rest. And it shouldn't be conditional.
A part of that lack of conditions too means that you do your duty joyfully regardless of what's being done for you.
That's it. I do my duty.
Yeah, that is a big thing, because if you're basing your actions on what somebody else does, oh my goodness, you will feel all types of roller coaster of emotions just on a day-to-day basis with someone, never mind years. And obviously biblically this is supported as well. Like, Jesus doesn't just stop loving us because of one thing that we do or anything, you know. He understands that we're human and that we're fallible, and even though we're saved in him, that we're still a work. He literally says that he will continue a work in us until the day of Christ. So he understands that this is not a thing where you get saved and now you're perfect, like you're ready and you're perfect and everything like that. You still have to be then refined. So I definitely see the kind of way that it shouldn't be conditional. It should be unconditional. And obviously as humans we will find that difficult, but constantly striving for that is a good thing to do, I guess. Yeah,
joyfully regardless of what is happening to and for me. You know, now some days I might be more cheerful than others because I have my own stuff going on. You know, and there's times where it's like I don't even want to say what's going on with me because, again, I know how to deal with me and my pain. You know, I'll cry in the shower and keep it moving, you know. But in the art of submission for me, because I can't speak for everybody, is being joyful about it. You know, that want of, and I think it, not even just a want, the power of knowing that you have the power to make someone's day better. And that's a choice.
And easier.
Yes, better and easier. That's a choice that you have to make. I always make the choice to do it. I like to give. I like to allow my person to lead. They know, especially like when it translates in the bedroom, I like to feel if I'm comfortable and if I trust you. So just know what that means. Know that dance with your partner. I think of relationships and submission and being submissive is like, it's like an 8 count. Know that dance. You better know that 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, dishes clean. 2, laundry. 3, if you have a long day and you fight in the world, you would never come back and fight me. You would never come back and walk into a space that is not welcoming you. Mm-hmm. You know?
Do you think that this is controversial in some capacity?
Absolutely. To some, it could be.
I think that especially from like a worldly perspective, it's definitely controversial, the things that she's talking about, just because the world sees things differently. And yes, you can't brand everybody in every situation as thinking the same way, but generally in the world, going after self-gain and being a bit more selfish is more normalized than being selfless, and people find it easier to be selfish more so than being selfless. So it's definitely easy to see where she's coming from with that.
Be enabling. You know, and someone told me one time, they're like, you're enabling him. And I told him how that made me feel, and he was like, of course they're going to say that. They don't have nobody doing that for them.
How did it make you feel?
It made me feel like...
Well, that's interesting as well. That's an interesting point that she said about feeling and, you know, all of that stuff about enabling, because that's kind of the way that the world would see it if they were looking at your relationship with God, for example, because we have to be first in submission to God. Other people who are not saved, even when I was not saved, I would look at Christians as like, oh, they're weird, like they're different, you know, like leave them to do their thing, but it's weird and I don't want it. But when you actually come into right relationship with God and you realize the blessings and the fruit and the favor and the joy that comes from that submission to God, it changes your whole perspective on things that you thought were so wrong and weird and you didn't want anything to do with it. You're now wanting more of it because you see it in a different light. And this definitely works out even in different things. If you know, you're not accustomed to doing a certain thing, like a certain routine. You're not accustomed to going to the gym, and you just see it as like, oh, this is like so much effort and energy, I don't like the gym. And then you start going to the gym and you start finding a workout routine and a regimen that fits your lifestyle and your way of learning and things like that. You can suddenly start to enjoy it and see the side that others around you that enjoy it see as well, and that can change your perspective. So it's good to have an open mind to the extent that you're not stuck in an echo chamber, to the point where you can see how other people think, even though you don't necessarily agree with them.
Maybe I am, but at the same time, that's my love. So if you don't understand it, you know, it's not, I'm not loving on you for you to get it. That's how I love, and whoever I love is gonna get that benefit.
Yes.
There was a time where, you know, women needed men for everything. We couldn't even open up a bank account, you know? And now it's like women are really in their bag, where they're like, I have my own business, I'm doing this, I don't need a man for nothing. Like, basically, like, can I be frank? Like, I don't need a nigga for shit. I don't. You know, and I can say those words, but I want one.
So my brain wants to understand the exchange here, because
know,
and this could be,
like,
it's not, no, you're doing great, but because I told you I'm gonna ask a bunch of stupid questions, because this dynamic, I think, like, my relationship with my partner is very egalitarian, like, we're equals. Like, I don't ever feel like I'm giving for the sake of giving, and I'm not receiving for the sake of receiving. I'm receiving being like, well, I deserve this, and I'm giving being like, you deserve this. So there's that exchange happening.
So you speak on, you're like, you tell him the things that you need?
Yeah.
And the things that you feel like you deserve, you'll say that?
100%.
How will you say that?
I need you to step up in these areas. I need to not worry about this. I need to be able to take my brain off this thing. I need more affection. I need more love. If we're going to be sexual, here's the things that I need to, like, feel more sexual. And in return, I invite that. Like, so we have a lot of conversations.
How does he receive it well?
I think everybody has a problem with being told that they're not doing enough, because we always go to, like, well, I'm already doing X, Y, and Z. Right. So I think that there can be, I wouldn't say that he's always arms wide open, but he always adjusts. But so I guess when I'm listening to your relationship style, I'm like, if we kind of broke it down into, like, to-dos specifically, like, what does a submissive woman do for her man?
Everything.
What does that mean?
You know, like packing his bag, unpacking his bag, just making sure all the things that he wants. And like, I pretty much read his mind. So it's like, if I know you and I study you, like, I know how you are in the morning, I know how you are about midday, I know when you're in this mood, what you need. Like, before you can ever ask me for something, I'm already on it. I mean,
I don't know, like, I've seen a few other, like, I've paused the video and watched through other people's reactions and tidbits that they took away from it and things like that. And a popular one that people took away from this video was that the type of submission that the guest Jasmine is inferring is more of servitude rather than submission itself. I do think there's a difference in that. I think what she's describing in terms of, like, just doing, that's definitely, like, not even traditional, it's just a more rigid form of submission that does more or less so fit with servitude rather than submission. I think that doing things is all well and good, but then submission isn't only about doing things and, like, being somebody's literal servant. It's also about the relationship dynamic, about being in agreement with this person, about, you know, bringing peace and, like, a well-oiled machine kind of thing. Like, Eve was Adam's helpmeet. So I think in that, if you can see submission as doing just doing things, that can condense it down to a way more, like, mundane view of submission rather than what submission has potential to be. So I think that's just, like, the fine line of crossing that boundary that could then see it as so much more of a simple-minded thing than it actually is. And a helpmeet doesn't just mean that you are a housewife and that you do things in a traditional setting for your partner. But yeah, I see kind of where she's coming from. I just think that it definitely seems like just doing things rather than in a relationship aspect and being almost beneath the person in terms of what the interactions and things like that. That's what I'm getting. And there's parts of this interview that I will clip out because they're a bit too explicit. But yeah, that's kind of the view I'm getting.
And he's spoiled. And you know, when I talk to my girlfriends about it, I was like, oh, how you guys doing? And I'm just like, girl, he's rotten. I'm like, he's spoiled rotten. Like, he's rotten. But I love that. Like, I want him to be that. I think my biggest flex is how I treat my man. You know what I mean? And my biggest flex should be how I treat myself, which is, so it's kind of fucked up. It's kind of messed up.
What are you getting from all that you're giving? What are you asking for in return?
You know what's interesting, and you saw my reaction when I was like, you say that? You asked for that? You know what I mean? I think that I have gotten better at saying the things that I need, but if I don't get it the first time, I don't like to say it again.
So would you do what you're doing for a broke dude?
What do you call broke?
Requires your financial support as well.
No. I
think this is where, and obviously people use the thing of like, oh, a woman's looks is a man's bank account or something like that. Is like comparable or something like that. But I think it's interesting how, again, the kind of straw man, paper man perception of submission completely crumbles on itself when the Shan Boodi mentions a broke man, or what she would define as a broke man. I don't know what that is just yet. Because submission and the whole concept of it does not rely on finances, and it does not rely on your ability to work for somebody else in simply your acts. It's so much more in depth than that. And I think from a biblical perspective, I don't know if either of them are Christians or if they have a faith or anything like that, if they have any root to their perception of submission, and why they're actually having this conversation. I don't know. It is quite a hot topic in the world of dating and relationships in terms of submission. People like to try and pick apart, oh, who's the man in the relationship? Who wears the trousers? Who's the submissive one? Who's the dominant one? Etc., etc. But if we really boil down submission to just the acts of a woman and what she can do for a man, whether that's his washing, his dishes, his clothes, his meals, and then we reduce the man's dominance and his assertiveness and his ability to lead to his money, it's not really the biblical definition and framework for submission. And obviously biblically as well, it does say that the wife and husband should submit to each other. So it's not just about the woman being in a place to do for the man. It's a place for exchange, and knowing that the man is our covering once we enter into marriage with him, and then God is the head of the household. So the dynamic biblically is different from the way that the world sees submission as well. So just defining submission would make things so much clearer. But yeah, I do think that boiling it down to a man's money and a woman's ability to cook, clean, look good is, yeah, it's not really on the same page as the biblical definition of submission.
To be broke, you can be
still a great lover, still very romantic, still very emotionally supportive. But I'm just like asking.
I wouldn't even know that. I wouldn't even know that he's all those things. Because I think there's a lot of people who are financially stable who are broke-minded, and I can't get down with that either.
So let me just clarify the question. What are the requirements from a man to bring to Jazzy in order to get this level of love from you?
But then, like she said that it shouldn't be conditional, but then she's saying, what are the requirements for this kind of love from you? So there's obviously some kind of condition there to begin with, even to get that kind of love from you. So it's not truly unconditional if there's requirements to even access it. But anyway. Okay, so that was that reaction to that video. It was quite explicit in parts, so there's probably going to be parts that I chopped out of that or chop out of it, depending on when you've seen this. overall, I can give some deductions on what I saw and what I heard. I think that the general concept of submission was maybe a bit clouded and condensed too simply into simply serving by physical acts from the woman, in terms of cooking, cleaning, maintenance of the man, etc. And I don't think there was too much spiritual emphasis on that kind of exchange, so I can't comment on that. I don't know if any of them are Christian or anything like that. I do think that the interview was quite interesting in terms of, from a worldly perspective, seeing the definition of submission being explored. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting video to watch. Let me know what you guys thought of it down below in the comments. Yeah, I'm just a bit baffled by the explicit parts, to be honest. I didn't expect to hear that. I'll probably be putting some kind of disclaimer in the video before I even put it out there. But yeah, it was definitely interesting to see this interview, and I'd love to see more conversations about submission, and ones that can be a bit more positive as well, because this one, I think in the world, it's one of the first like positive outlooks on submission that I've seen. Even though it might not be necessarily from a biblical perspective, it's definitely a more positive view on submission from the one that's being interviewed. I think her name is Jasmine or Jazzy or something like that. So it's definitely interesting to hear her side of it, and I pray all the best for her and her relationship, and everybody else that is, you know, exploring the term of submission and all of that stuff. But yeah, submission is definitely not just pure dominance and being able to do whatever you want as a guy. It's not about disrespect and yeah, doing whatever you want. I think the biblical definition, this is why we have to come back to the biblical definition of submission. And I actually have a few verses to share about the biblical definition of submission as well. Just to be able to show that it is a beautiful thing. It says, "Submit yourselves then to God, resist the devil and he will flee from you." So that's from James 4 verse 7. So submission is something that we do from a place of from a place of trust, from a place of safety, knowing that we will be safe. So it's not something that you do, because some people think submission is like the woman just submits and gives of herself, and then the guy has free reign to do whatever he wants and all of this stuff, especially if he's a man of influence, power, money, etc. No, that's not what biblically submission is about. And submission comes with peace. It says in Job 22:21, it says, "Submit to God and be at peace with him. In this way, prosperity will come to you." So submission is something that prosperity comes from, good things come from. And I think that's the way that the world has kind of made it perverted. They don't see it as a good thing. They see it as a way of whoever is on the receiving side of that submission is a domineering, assertive, controlling person that should not be trusted. And those are the complete converse of what submission and the fruits of submission should be. And also in Colossians 3 verse 23, I just wanted to give one final verse just to wrap up this video with a bit of encouragement. It says, "And whatsoever ye do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men." And I thought that was just so encouraging, because sometimes, as I think it was Jasmine that mentioned in the interview, we can feel like the person that we're doing this for can, you know, do a madness and be disrespectful, manipulate our trust, all these different things. That is not the biblical definition of submission, and it's not what God wants for us. Therefore, we should not focus on the subject of that submission. If it's your wife, it's your husband, we should instead focus on God, because we're ultimately submitting to him, and that is where the fruits of our submission will come from. They'll come from God alone, and his name will be glorified through your submission. So I'm just talking really fast because my camera's blinking and it's gonna die soon, but I pray that this video blessed you, and I hope that you enjoyed the reaction. Let me know what you thought down below, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in my next one. Stay blessed and bye!